The Last FIREHAWK, The Silver Swamp. By Katrina Charman. Introduction. Tag, a small barn owl, his friend Skyla, a squirrel, and Blaze, a firehawk, are in the magical land of the Cloud Kingdom. They are searching for clues to find Blaze's family, the lost firehawks. But all is not what it seems in this new world. Blaze has been kidnapped by giant birds and taken to their nest in the tall trees. With the help of 3 golden feathers, the Ember Stone, and their magical map, Tag and Skyla must find and rescue their friend. But this journey is not going to be easy. To find Blaze, Tag and Skyla must travel through the dark and dangerous Silver Swamp. Strange creatures lurk around every corner, and a mysterious dark smudge has been appearing on the magical map. Someone or something is following them. The adventure continues. The Cloud Kingdom. Chapter 1, The Unusual Flowers. Tag and Skyla stood in a dusty clearing and examined the magical map. The ground felt like sand beneath their feet. It twinkled in the sunlight. Skyla pointed to a group of tall trees on the map. The trees stood in the middle of an island, surrounded by dark water. She read the label, Silver Swamp. It looks like that's where the giant birds' nests are. Tag said. Skyla nodded. I wonder why they call it the Silver Swamp. I guess we're going to find out, Tag said. Let's go. He tucked the map into his sack. The sun shined bright as they walked along a dusty path. I hope Blaze is okay, Skyla said. I hope so too, Tag replied. But she is strong and brave. And she has her special firehawk powers. A little way ahead, Tag could see a clearing. The ground was covered in brightly colored, unusual-looking flowers. Tag gasped. The flowers were like nothing he had ever seen before. Some grew taller than him. Others shone pink and green and yellow neon colors. They glowed like fireflies. Look at that! Skyla exclaimed. She ran over and stood beneath a huge mushroom. It towered over her like a giant umbrella. Skyla sniffed a bell-shaped flower, then reached out to touch its petals when puff. A spray of sparkly purple glitter shot out of the flower. It covered Skyla's face and fur. Skyla! Tag called, rushing over to her. Are you okay? Achoo! Skyla sneezed. I'm okay. This stuff is just so sticky. She brushed at the glitter, but it stuck to her fur. Tag laughed. You look super sparkly. Skyla rolled her eyes as she kept brushing her fur. Tag pulled out the map to check they were going the right way. The magical golden feathers had drawn this map of the Cloud Kingdom. Now, each time Tag and Skyla looked at it, it changed to show them where they were. 2 small figures stood on the map in the middle of the colorful clearing. They looked just like Skyla and Tag. That's us, Skyla said, pointing at the tiny figures. Don't touch the paper with your sticky paw. Tag warned. You'll make the map all glittery. Skyla huffed and continued walking. Tag was about to follow her, but something caught his eye on the map. He frowned as he took a closer look. The dark smudge was back. And this time it was even darker. Skyla, Tag said. What do you think this is? But then, a rustling sound came from the trees behind him. Tag pulled out his dagger. Chapter 2, Into the Dark. The rustling sound continued. Do you hear that? He whispered to Skyla. She stopped walking and turned back toward Tag. Hear what? Skyla asked. Tag looked around, but he couldn't see anyone in the nearby trees. Skyla held up her slingshot. What's wrong? She asked. The black smudge is back on the map, he whispered. I heard something in the trees. I think we are being followed. Tag thought about the dark figure he thought he had seen when they'd arrived in the Cloud Kingdom. Skyla narrowed her eyes and looked toward the trees. I don't see anyone, she said. It's probably just the wind. Tag was sure that he had heard something, but Skyla was right. There was no one in the trees. Maybe that strange dark smudge on the map is just making me feel jumpy? Tag thought. Let's stay on our guard, he told Skyla. We don't know what new dangers we might discover. As they walked, the path became wider and wider. Tag noticed that the ground was becoming damp and muddy. Watch out, Skyla called from a little way ahead. There are some big puddles. The farther they walked, the wetter and muddier the ground became. Their feet squelched in the mud. It came up to their ankles. This must be the swamp, Tag said. I wish Blaze was here, so she could fly me over this. I really hate getting wet, Skyla grumbled. She held her tail in the air to keep it dry. Me too, Tag said. I'm too small to carry you on my back, but we'll walk through it together. He stopped suddenly. Just a moment before, they had been walking in the sun. But now, it was as if someone had turned out the lights. Skyla noticed too. Tag! It's so dark. What just happened? Tag asked. It was daytime just a second ago. Skyla pointed to the sky. Tag gazed up. A huge silver moon shone above. It was twice the size of the moon in Peridea. It was like a shiny coin in the sky. Tag examined the map. He said. Look at this. He pointed at a picture of the sun on one side of the map. That's where we came from, Skyla said. Then Tag pointed to the silver swamp. On that side of the map was a picture of the moon. Maybe that side of the Cloud Kingdom is always light, Skyla said, and this side is always dark. Tag put the map back in his sack and felt a shiver run through his feathers. In the dark, it would be harder to see if danger was close by. He thought of the dark smudge again. Tag! Skyla cried. She held out her slingshot, her eyes wide. Two dark figures stood a little way ahead in the trees, staring at them. Chapter 3, The Strangers. Tag pulled out his dagger and moved closer to Skyla. The two dark figures watched them. Do you think they are dangerous? Whispered Skyla. Tag could feel her fur shaking. I'm not sure, Tag said. They could be friendly. Tag and Skyla crept forward. The strangers did the same. Tag narrowed his eyes. There was something familiar about these figures. Look, Skyla said. One of them has a slingshot, just like me. The other has a dagger like mine, Tag whispered. He stood as tall as he could. Who are you? He shouted, trying to sound brave. His voice echoed around the trees. Who are you, you? A voice echoed back. I'm Tag, Tag replied. This is Skyla. We're searching for our friend. Friend, the strange voice repeated. Maybe they are trying to tell us they are friendly? Skyla guessed. She lowered her slingshot, and the stranger did the same. Tag walked closer to the figures, then he laughed. Skyla put her paws on her hips. What's so funny? She asked. They look like us because they are us. Tag laughed. He held out a wing to one of the strangers, and the stranger copied the action. They are our reflections. The tree trunks were silver and the moonlight shone off them, turning them into shiny mirrors. All around, Tag and Skyla could see their reflections staring back at them. Look at the water, Tag said. It's silver like the trees. Skyla grinned and gave her reflection a high five. Her paw sparkled in the light. Ugh, you were right, Tag, she said. I'm still so glittery. They walked on, zigzagging through the silvery trees. Soon, there was more water than solid ground. How deep do you think this water will get? Skyla asked, worried. You know I can't swim. The silvery water was almost up to her waist now. There might be something under there, waiting to bite us, she added. We've still got a way to go until we reach the tall trees, Tag said, wishing there was a quicker way to cross the swamp. He thought about flying ahead, but he couldn't leave Skyla behind. Croak! Croak! What was that? Skyla asked. She grabbed her slingshot. Tag pulled out his dagger again. Even with the big, bright moon, it was hard to see. Croak! 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 Tag peered through the darkness. 100 small eyes peered back at him. Chapter 4, The Swamp. Run, Skyla! Tag yelled. Splash! 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 Tag and Skyla ran through the silvery water as quickly as they could. But the bright-eyed creatures crawled closer and closer. Tag and Skyla stood back to back in the water as the creatures surrounded them. Tag's wings shook as he held his dagger. The moonlight reflected off of the tree trunks onto the water below. Hundreds of toads stared up at Tag and Skyla. There are so many of them, Tag said. He wished that Blaze was here. Her powers were so strong. She would be able to scare them away with her cry, or blast them with a fireball. He and Skyla only had their weapons. The toads croaked and splashed around in front of them, but they didn't seem to be coming any closer. What are they doing? Skyla asked. Tag scratched his head. I'm not sure. They're not looking at us anymore. He stepped toward a large, balloon-shaped toad sitting on a log floating nearby. Hello, Tag said. The toad stared at Tag. Hello, it croaked. Then it stuck out its long tongue, and plop! It jumped into the water to join its friends. Tag sighed and put his dagger away. They are just normal toads, he said. Don't think they'll hurt us. I think they are playing, Skyla added. She put her paw on a log and some of the sticky glitter on her fur came off onto it. Excuse me, she said to a nearby toad, we're looking for our friend. Can you help us find Dash? Croak! The toad jumped away from Skyla. Huh, Skyla said. I guess he didn't want to talk. She turned to another group of toads. Can any of you help us find our friend? She asked. Get away, the toads croaked. They quickly swam off. Wait! Skyla called. We won't hurt you. What was that all about? Those toads left in a hurry, Tag said. Skyla shrugged. Maybe we scared them. Tag frowned. The first toad I talked to hadn't seemed scared, he thought. Something is not right. Suddenly, a large toad popped its head up out of the water. It looked at Skyla, then Tag. Danger, the toad croaked. Then it and all the other toads leaped away from Tag and Skyla as fast as they could hop. Come back! Tag called after the toads. Where is the danger? He held out his dagger, searching for danger. But the toads had gone and the swamp was still and silent. Get ready, Tag told Skyla. If danger is coming, we need to be ready to fight. Chapter 5, Skyla's Idea. Tag and Skyla held out their weapons. They continued on their way, looking around nervously. But no new dangers appeared. We should stop to eat, Tag suggested after a while. We'll need our energy to get the rest of the way through the swamp. Skyla nodded. Good idea. I'm hungry. They sat on a fallen log, then ate some berries and drank some water. I wish we could move faster, Skyla said. Blaze needs us, and this swampy water is really slowing us down. But how can we move faster? Tag asked. You can't fly without Blaze. I've got an idea. Skyla grinned. She pulled at some vines hanging overhead. Help me with these vines. Tag helped pull down the vines. Then he watched as Skyla twisted them together. Tag smiled. You're making a raft, he said. Just like at Lullaby Lake. Skyla nodded. We will move quicker on top of the water. And we won't get wet. Tag found 2 large sticks. We can use these to steer the raft, he said. When the raft was finished, he and Skyla climbed on. It's a bit wobbly, Skyla said, but it will do. Which way? Tag pulled out the map, being careful not to get it wet. The small pictures of him and Skyla were right in the middle of Silver Swamp. That way, he said. We should reach the tall trees soon. Together, they steered the raft across the water. Tag could hear the toads croaking far behind them. His stomach flipped over, wondering what the toads had been so afraid of. Hopefully we are leaving the danger far behind, he thought. Look! Skyla said. Up ahead was the shadowy outline of tall trees and an island.